Hi guys and welcome. This is Gaita Siciliano, artist, memoir writer, bipolar psychiatric survivor, and your host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast, the place that offers an alternative perspective on mental illness, highlighting creativity, non-conventional healing, and breaking on through to the other side. If you are ready for a new narrative on the mental realm that celebrates crazy and cool without penalty, then Not As Crazy As You Think is for you. Hello, welcome to episode 2 of season 2. This is Gaita Siciliano, host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast. Thank you for returning. And we have a returning guest today. Mr. D is back. Don DiBenedetto. How are you, Mr. D?
Doing good, Jennifer. Doing good, honey.
I'm so happy to have you back.
So good to be back, honey.
Everyone enjoyed your affirmations and your good perspective on things. And I think it's needed now more than ever, especially with everything that's been going on. I would like your insight into, helping us interpret the situation that we now face as a nation. You were our social studies teacher. You told us everything we know. So since we last sat together, there's been an insurrection at the Capitol. Who would have ever thought? I mean, did you ever picture such a thing happening when we were in the Cold War in the 80s?
Jennifer, to be honest with you, nothing shocked me anymore.
Right.
Because the human brain and the human mind and the needs of human beings are so diverse. There's always going to be a group that will swing to the far right or far left.
Right.
Because of whether it's self-esteem issues or culture or brainwashing, there's always going to be these, if you want to call them radical groups.
Right.
No matter what, they're going to exist. And they exist for a purpose because we need to somehow forgive them, to understand them, and try to get along with them.
Right.
It's a very difficult thing, but spiritually, it is a very high level of evolution.
Well, yeah, it certainly is, because I know a lot of us, when we see something like this, it's so upsetting that the last thing we're thinking about is forgiveness. Hearing that from you makes me realize how important that it is.
It is. Jennifer, not only is it important for your body and your cells and every cell in your body because you don't want to be tense and stressed and anxious. It's detrimental to you, but it's beneficial for your children and for your significant others and your friends and families, for you to be the calmest and the most serene and the most understanding and accepting person as you possibly could be.
I guess each one of us has to work on that. It doesn't come easy to everybody. I mean, especially since there were some really terrible things that we saw. I mean, the police getting brutalized and all of these symbols. To me personally, the symbols of hate, of racism, that killed me, because I'm all about symbols because I communicate through art. So when I see a Confederate flag in the middle of the rotunda of the Capitol, I'm thinking to myself, this just ain't right. We are in 2021. This is like, we're hearkening back to the Civil War.
Yes.
As a nation, I guess it's about healing.
Yeah.
So where do we begin, I guess, as a nation? You know what I mean? The larger perspective. I guess it starts with individuals.
Yeah. It starts in your own backyard with your own self, because a better you makes for a better everybody else who comes in contact with you.
Right.
So it's like the old story of the monk who wanted to change the world, and he goes out to change the world, and he realizes that it's impossible. So he says, okay, I'll change my neighborhood. And then he says, okay, I'm going to go out and change. And he realizes after a while he can't change his neighborhood. Okay, I'll change my family. And he realizes he can't change his family. And he comes to the realization that the only person that he can change is himself. And then when he changes himself, slowly his family changes. They absorb some of this new energy. And then slowly the neighborhood changes and slowly the world changes. So it's not, I got to change the circumstances first.
Right.
Always me first
Right.
that needs to change. Gandhi said we need to be the change we want to see in the world.
Right.
And for us, Jennifer, we don't want to resist.
Mm-hmm.
Because resistance does no good for you, does no good for every cell in your body, does no good for your stomach, your headaches, blah, blah, blah. It does no good for anybody around you.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to love, we want to learn to accept, we want to understand, because, honey, those people's brains are maybe not functioning on the same level as yours.
Mm-hmm.
Their brains have been stuffed with whatever propaganda, whatever brainwashing, whatever blaming has gone down for generation after generation after generation.
I don't think that most people want to feel this upset and want to feel this tension of opposites. There's all this like opposition between friends, and how many people I had to unfriend before I even took myself off Facebook because I said, oh my God, this is just such toxic energy.
Yeah.
I guess it's about daily choices. It's about like taking yourself away from things that are toxic. And at the same time, I guess filling the vacuum with something positive.
Yeah.
But I think we have to go on like turbo right now and do this because there's just so much negative influence from so many areas around us.
Yeah, honey, there's a little saying, and it's very hard for some people to avoid, because when some people meet resistance, they respond with resistance.
Mm-hmm.
They meet anger, they respond with anger. It says, don't wrestle with a pig because you're both going to get dirty. But the pig likes it. There are some people, honey, and I'm sorry to say, conflict gives them energy. Conflict gives them a feeling of purpose. There are some people who, when they have that Confederate flag in their hand, they feel so important.
Right.
They feel so empowered because their father told them and their mother told them, and they feel as though they're living, or their friends told them, or whatever groups they're in, Proud Boys and all these groups, they feel so important.
Right.
This is the way they've been brought up.
Right.
Jennifer, we believe that loving people live in a loving world.
Right.
So if you are a loving person, you will meet loving people. But if you are a person that is angry, you will meet angry people. If you are a person who's ready for a conflict, you will meet people that are ready for a conflict.
Right. So how do we, in these trying times, because I personally think that this is one of the hardest times politically that we've dealt with, just because there's so many things going on. What are some things that we can do to get the garbage out of our minds?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to do a little bit of, I guess, a little psychology. Many of us are very emotional about these things that have happened, and emotional about many, many things.
Mm-hmm.
And emotion, basically, it's such a great thing to be aware of your emotions and to use them. Emotions tell us how close we are to what we want and what we need and what our desires are. So as we get closer to what we desire and what we need and what we want in life, our emotions rise. But if we feel we are further away from what we want and need and desire, then our emotions sink. So if you think you need to be on the beach and you're getting excited, you buy the plane tickets, you're getting more excited, your emotions are building. You get the hotel room, your emotions are building. You start packing your luggage, you try on your bathing suit. Your emotions build and build and build till they reach a really high, beautiful, joyful, exuberant level. And the reverse is true. If the airlines are booked and the hotels are booked and the weather looks bad and whatever, now your emotions start to get lower and lower and lower.
Right.
And for some people, when these emotions get a little bit lower, it triggers an anger response in them because they don't see their needs and desires and wants as if it's, within reach. So what do? They resort to anger. And anger is basically fear anyway, most of the time. They're afraid, they're losing grip, the country's falling apart, whatever, their taxes are going to go, I don't know.
Right.
So they resort to anger. And then, unhappily, the people who are on the other end of the spectrum respond also with anger.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that we have to remember when our emotions get a little bit too crazy with us,
Mm-hmm.
we got to look at our expectations. Sometimes the expectations are far above what is possible.
Right.
So my expectation is peace in the world, oneness in the United States. Guess what? I have to lower my expectations.
Right.
Because at this moment, there's not going to be a oneness in our country.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe a little increment here, a little increment there. I do my best. I do one little bit. I put a video on Facebook. I talk to somebody on the phone, and slowly, one little brick at a time,
Mm-hmm.
we build back up to a calmness and a kindness and a unity and a feeling of cooperation rather than competition. So for us, one thing we do is we want to make sure that our expectations are realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't want to lower your expectations for yourself when it comes to joyfulness. There is no limit to the amount of joy that you could experience. But there are limits to what other people want to accomplish in their life according to your perspective. I want everybody to finish college. I don't want to go to college.
Right.
I think everybody should, have a job. I don't want to get a job. I think everybody should be married. I don't want to get married. I think everybody should be heterosexual. What are you talking about? See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to go from these lofty expectations and even, maybe a little less lofty expectations to a realistic one. I expect myself to be calm, peaceful, understanding, cooperative, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we build from within always.
Right.
And the world will be a better place as we grow and evolve and, become calmer and lighter. And it's not what you hear on the news, but it's the only way to go.
Right. Right. Well, that's why I always say, like, these coping skills, they lend themselves to everything. And, even in schools, like, one of the things that they don't really put first, this idea of compassion, kindness, towards your neighbor and towards friends. And that's not something that's taught. We have to remember that those things should be something we should strive for, in terms of accomplishing and incorporating into our lives.
I agree 100%. Leo Buscaglia has a thing he does on one of his talks, and it's a letter from a man who was in a concentration camp. And the man says, this concentration camp was built by learned men, by engineers, but they learned how to build and they learned how to create, but they didn't learn compassion, or they were so obedient and blind. I can't get into their brains, but it certainly doesn't make sense to me, like you said, that we teach so much stuff in school, but not compassion and love. And some of our schools are wonderful. Believe me, there's one school that has a little bench they put in the yard. And it's like at lunchtime, either a teacher sits there or another student. And whoever has nobody to talk to and no place to go at lunch sits at the bench and talks to the teacher or talks to a fellow student. Oh,
That's
it's lovely.
nice.
Lovely. A lot of schools are doing stuff like this because people in America move so much and kids are uprooted and they're so sad. They lost their friends and they're lost in this new school and it's terrible.
Right.
They're trying to teach these people that you're accepted. You're one with us. We embrace you. We understand you. We want to get to know you.
Yeah.
I wish there was more of that in our educational system.
They need to feel like a sense of belonging. I mean, that's like clearly what was going on with all these groups. They feel like they belong to something. You know, I
Yes.
mean, you got to give them that. You know what I mean? They're trying, but I believe it starts with like kindness and compassion first before you feel, like you're part of some kind of group.
A lot of these people, their self-esteem is not strong. So to be in a group makes them feel so important.
Right.
And then when the group tells them, brainwashes them, that we are threatened, these other people are enemies, they jump right in and they agree and they start resorting to violence because this is my group, this is my team, when I taught in East Harlem, we had a lot of gangs, and we had children in our school who were in the gangs. They found such power and allegiance and oneness and security in these gangs and in these hate groups that it's their alpha and omega. This group is the end all and the be all for me. Jennifer, hopefully somewhere, somehow we will learn that cooperation is always better than conflict.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you this little story, but this teacher in a middle school, I forgot where, gave everybody a balloon, same color, said, write your name on the balloon. And everybody he told like 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, whatever, put all your balloons in the hallway. And they put all their balloons in the hallway. And then he had each class come out slowly and carefully. He said, okay, I want you to find your balloon. Well, 20 minutes later, people are still looking for their balloons. There was hundreds of balloons all over the hallway. So he said, okay. Everybody, let's go back in your classrooms. Those who found their balloons, put them back in the hall. Now we're going to change the rules a little bit. Here's what I want you to do. Go out in the hall, pick up a balloon, look at the name, give it to the person whose name is on the balloon. 3 minutes later, everybody had their balloon.
Right.
Cooperation is so much.
Oh, gosh.
Not only more efficient, but so much healthier for the human spirit. And, mind, body, spirit is connected. If we learn to cooperate, stress goes down, anxiety goes down, stomach issues decrease, headaches decrease, because the competition only inflames and irritates and aggravates. Cooperation calms. And
I think that it really, as you say, always, it comes down to kind of how do we move towards the light, rather than just stare at the darkness.
Yeah.
Because then we're sitting there with it.
And that beautiful girl who gave the little speech.
Amanda Gorman.
Yes.
Oh.
And that one line is, do we have the courage to see the light? Do we have the courage to be the light?
Yes.
And Jennifer, it's not like I'm going to change the world or anybody's going to change the world. Maya Angelou said, and it's so beautiful, people will forget what you say. People will forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel.
Right.
So all we got to do is make people feel good about themselves. It's not hard. It's not hard. A smile, a hug, if COVID or whatever, however you do it. A smile, a hug, a phone call, a text. People will never forget how you make them feel.
Right.
So if we could just go through our day and make one person feel really good about themselves, and they do the same, and they do, Jennifer, in no time, people are feeling better, they're cooperating, they feel closer, there's less anxiety, there's less stress, you don't need all this medication to get through the day. It's fantastic, and it's simple.
I love the balloon story because it is efficient. It's much more efficient. Like, we could go from, here to Quantum Leap over there. If we just cooperate, well, those things will just take care of themselves so much more quickly.
Yeah. and tie the two together. I'm sure when the kid finds a balloon and goes to the other kid and says, "Here, Susie, here's your balloon," Susie feels great.
Yeah.
So we tied Maya Angelou in with the balloon story. And not only did they get their balloon, but they feel good that somebody found their balloon and gave it to them, hopefully with a smile on their face.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, what a positive experience.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Jennifer, I used to do it. I don't know if I did it with your class. I did it. I read an article one day and I started it, and I did it for like maybe the last 20 years I taught, or whatever, 30 years. And what we did was you got a piece of loose leaf and you put your name on the top, and we numbered how many kids were in the class. And then we passed the loose leaf. I'd blow a little whistle and they would pass the loose leaf, and we all passed it around the rows, and the loose leaf would arrive at the next person's desk. And in any number you want, you had to write a positive thing to that. And then if there was 30 kids in the class, 30 times the paper went around. And after 30 times the paper arrived back on your desk, it was the best exercise you could. Because it was amazing, because you got 30 affirmations. Some were simple, the boys. She's cute,
That's good enough.
But a lot of the girls, they really, because girls are much more compassionate. Their cerebral cortex develops faster. The boys' cerebral cortex takes years down the road. They're not so empathetic sometimes, they're not responsible. But the girls, their cerebral cortex develops much earlier, and they can realize and feel compassion. And the girls would write, "You're such a good friend," or you have such a beautiful smile, and I love being your friend. But you don't put your name.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
And then I would say, okay, just relax and read what everybody has written about you. And we'd spend 5 or 6 minutes. Then I'd say, okay, if you want, you can share your papers with other people. And they would get up. I mean, kids had tears in their eyes.
Oh, my gosh.
It was just a lovely exercise.
That is.
One girl told me about 25 years later, she said, "Mr. D, I still have that paper I draw."
Oh, my gosh.
Because she was a quiet kid, and maybe she didn't feel so popular and affirmed and whatever it may be. And this was an eye-opener for her. It woke her up. Because people are sometimes, Jennifer, they're unaware of how beautiful and how powerful they are.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, when I went to school, this guy was the most personable, the most outgoing, the easiest guy to talk to, and just pleasant. And 35 years later, we had a reunion. And I'm sitting with the guy, and I said, "Oh, man, And I said, "What do you do for a living?" And he said, "Oh, I'm a financial planner." And I said, "You're a financial planner?" I said, "I would have thought that you'd be like a social worker or some kind of a motivational speaker." And he stopped and he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Come on, you always had such a great personality." And guess what? He retired from being a financial planner. He wrote a book, and he's now a motivational speaker.
Really?
He's all over.
Oh, my God. He was inspired by you.
He never saw it in himself.
Yeah.
Everybody else saw it in him, but he never saw it himself. So I think one of our purposes in life is to awaken that wonderfulness in other people.
Right.
I'm sure that you affirm Jack and tell him, "Jack, you are so talented in this and so good at this." But there are other people in our lives that have such potential, but they don't know it. So I think one of our tasks is to awaken the wonderfulness in our fellow man.
So if you're not a teacher, or if you're not around youth, or, find a way to do that with just your peers, that you work with, or, that can revolutionize the world.
Jen, it's not hard. I think I told you about the little boy in our camp who was not the most attractive little kid, not the most intelligent little guy. And he was loud. He used to clap his hands. He would give you a headache. He was so powerful. But he was able to make people feel good.
Mm.
He is, if Maya Angelou ever met him, she'd just want to hug him because he knew the most important thing is how you make people feel.
Right.
And I don't know how intelligent he was or whatever. I knew he used to take special classes and whatever he did, but this kid was full of love. And he just looked at people and said, wow, I love that pocketbook. Wow, and it's not hard.
Right. It's the smallest things.
You don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be brilliant. You don't have to be anything.
Right.
Just awaken the wonderfulness in people.
But then some people experience that other people, they can harm them with things that they say, or they get very upset in response to things that are negative or that are brought up, because people could be cruel again, and they don't know why, or we don't know why. But what do you say to those who, they're placing too much power in the hands of others for how they feel?
Jennifer, that is a wonderful point that you just made, because we give so much power to other people. We look outside of ourselves for affirmation. And this is normal. You might say,
right.
Oh, what's wrong with me? When we're infants, all power is outside of ourselves.
Right.
All nourishment is outside of ourselves. If we feel sad or lonely or upset or whatever, we look outside of ourselves, because this is the way our evolution is. As kids, we look outside of ourselves. All power is outside of us. All nourishment is outside of us. But when we get older, now we want you to come to the understanding that all power is within you. So when we look outside of ourselves for affirmation, you're telling the world, I need you to affirm me because I'm not up to speed affirming myself. See? People who are totally together and totally at peace with themselves, they don't need an affirmation. They don't need anybody to tell them how great they are. They tell everybody else how great they are.
Right.
Because you don't need it. But we give a lot of power. We have an expression. He who angers you controls you.
Right.
We've given control to other people. So if somebody doesn't say good morning, we're angry. We're upset.
Yeah.
They ruined our day. Or if somebody says, oh, I don't like that blouse, or I don't like that tie, or I don't like that. It ruins our day because deep down we don't have that self-esteem. That everything just bounces off us. In Africa, in some area in Africa, they have a quote that says, no enemy within, no enemy without. So if there's no enemy within you, no one outside of you can hurt you.
Right.
Because you have such strong self-esteem. Listen to this. This is a really powerful quote from Esther Hicks.
Okay.
Tell everyone you know my happiness depends on me, so you're off the hook. And then demonstrate it. Be happy no matter what they're doing or what they're saying. Practice feeling good no matter what. Before you know it, you will not give anybody else the responsibility for the way you feel. And then you'll love them all. Because why don't we love people? Oh, they never say anything nice to me. They always go. You can love everybody if you have good self-esteem. Doesn't matter what they say or do.
Right.
And then she goes on to say, the only reason you don't love them because you're using them to not feel good.
Right. One of the main things we have to let go of is blame and guilt.
Yes.
And so many people have people in their lives who pull the guilt card, or, there's that sense of blaming so that there's no responsibility that one has to take. Right. And yet, we just had the new year over here. So resolutions. What do you think about resolutions? Should people make them,
If they're realistic, yes. Because it's always good to have a goal.
Right.
Something to shoot for, something to aim for. But it's not achieving the goal that is the good thing about a resolution. The best thing about a resolution is that you're beginning a process. Resolutions are fine. But the idea is we don't want to say, I'll be happy when.
Right.
Are you having fun on the path?
Mm-hmm.
Are you having fun on the path? Because Esther Hicks says, when you look at results, it kills the energy.
Right.
Because many, many people don't reach the results that they really want. So what happens?
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, these people who were friends of mine had a band. They were so cute. And they sang in those spiritual centers and they sang at churches. It's just lovely. And they went to this big retreat out in California where all these spiritual centers, 8 or 9 different groups that sang in the spiritual centers went to the retreat. And what they did was each night, 1 or 2 groups sang. And at the end, they had a big jam session. And they said it was wonderful because they sang all these beautiful songs, Karen Decker and all these people. And they said it was the most beautiful, wonderful experience until they went in their room and started to count how many CDs they sold. They didn't sell as many CDs as they wanted. Their energy went from ecstatic, right down.
Oh my gosh.
And luckily they caught themselves and they said, we don't want to lose this energy. This was a fantastic, wonderful experience. Forget about the results. Just enjoy the experience. We enjoyed the process. And that's the idea. So resolutions are great, but enjoy the process.
Right. I remember when I did a lot of yoga at one time, I had this nice yoga teacher and she would, when you're doing yoga for a while and you've done yoga and you start seeing the progress, there's a sense of pride because, when you work so hard at something and then you see a result, you feel pride about it. But this teacher was so intuitive that she saw when we were pushing a little harder and she wasn't the type to be like, yeah, push, push, push. She was more like, this is the process. It's all about the process. Like, it's not about how far you go today or how long you hold that pose today or that you're looking at how another person sees you. It's about the process. And whenever I remember that, I was like, oh my gosh, it's such a relief.
It is.
Because it's just being present.
Yeah, to be in the present moment. And not only that, many times when the yoga teachers see you're pushing, what would they say? Breathe. Breathe into it. Visualize. Feel it. So all the tools that we use, breathing and visualization and, meditation, gets you to, further down the road, further down the process. And yoga is a perfect example because I would be straining because I was like, there was like 3 guys in the class and 30 women every, and they were much, much more flexible than us guys were. And I would see stuff these girls could do. And I'd be like, I'm going to do this. And I'd be pushing. And the yoga teacher would come by and say, breathe, take a breath. Because you see me tightening. I wasn't in the moment. I was thinking,
right,
I'm going to get to this point or else. Who wants to go through life like that?
Right.
I want to go through life enjoying the moment, breathing through the moment, relishing the moment, visualizing how beautiful this is. It's just, and being in the present moment. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
My wife and I watched this show. It was amazing. It was about decluttering your house. It had a little Japanese girl who came in with a translator. And before they start to declutter, they meditate. She plays music. She goes through the clothes. She said, take everything out, put it on the bed, everything you own to the girl. Because she said, I want you to see how much you have, first of all. Then she said, go through each piece, put it against your heart. Do you feel a spark? Do you feel as though you're one with this piece of material? If you do, you keep it. If not, you thank it for letting you have worn it, letting it be part of your life, but it no longer serves you, and you're going to give it to a charity. Well, this woman went through every bit of her clothing, hugging things to her chest, saying, no, no more. Hugging things to her chest, saying, oh, yes. Just by the energy. It was amazing.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm going to do that.
Amazing.
Because sometimes it's weird. It's psychic energy that's stuck. We carry feelings and stories with us attached to almost every material that we have.
Yes.
So, and I certainly have a lot. I could definitely declutter that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because if you make it something like a ceremony,
yes,
it gives so much more meaning and power behind it.
Yeah. Jennifer, everything is energy. And as you say, if we can get in the present moment and harness that energy, loving another person is a piece of cake. Making another person feel good, so easy, because we're in that, we're immersed in love, and love is a twin. Love cannot be contained.
Right.
It's got to be expressed. So, it's a great way to be in the present moment is to laugh.
Oh.
When you laugh, you're in the present moment.
Right. You can't get more.
No. We encourage people to find as many things to laugh at. As nothing, where those video shows where the guy falls down, hits his head, whatever, the piñata things, where people are not getting hurt.
Right, whatever. Right.
Find a reason to laugh, and you're in the present moment. It lightens you up. It lightens your whole psyche, your whole body. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Loving yourself, I think, is where it starts for you to be able to love someone else. But it's so hard because you are always working against, all of the comments that were made throughout your life and all the disappointments that maybe you felt that your lack of some kind of quality didn't bring something into your life. There's a lot of self-blame.
Yes.
And, but I guess it's a daily practice.
Takes practice, honey. It takes practice.
Right.
And hopefully we enjoy the process and we grow and we learn and we feel better about ourselves. And when you feel good about yourself, you can just spread that love like, so easy. It's amazing because love is something that, it's a cute little quote. Love is something that the more you spread it, the thicker it gets. It doesn't diminish.
Interesting.
It gets stronger and thicker.
Yes.
I'm spreading love everywhere. It's getting thicker and stronger, richer.
Yes.
It doesn't diminish. It doesn't fizzle out. It's an amazing thing, honey.
How wonderful it's becoming more obvious to me that if I can continue spreading this message that we're so much more than what this philosophy is, in that, there's something wrong with our genetics and that'll be the case for the rest of your life. It's so disempowering. If I could keep remembering, the opposite of that, which is I have so much control in my hands. If I could just keep that in mind, I could prove with my own life, love is what matters. And all of these things are inside for you to cultivate and bring to life for the benefit of yourself, but also for the benefit of others. But it is a process. And there are some days when I'm just like, oh my God, I hope I get through the day. And I know a lot of people are experiencing this more and more. And I want to be a platform so that others could get hope. And we've been so hopeless this last year. It's been such a bad one. But also we've all experienced it. Everyone walked away with some kind of disappointment this year and struggle.
And hopefully we learned.
Yeah.
So we don't want to focus on the disappointment and the struggle. We want to focus on, look at what we learned.
Right.
So this might have been a year of where you didn't get what you wanted, but this is the year where you appreciated what you had.
Right. I have so much to be thankful for, just for health.
Yeah.
You know how you take that for granted? This year, I feel like, if anything, if you got through this year without an illness, or knowing someone very close that, was suffering, you were really lucky. This was the year.
You talk about appreciation. So 2020, hopefully, was a year that we learned appreciation.
Yes. I hope 2021 is a better one.
It's going to be a better one.
I think so. Well, just in juxtaposition to the last one, it can't be anything but
Yeah.
Hopefully. But no, I have a lot of good faith. And I think that I'm just, again, so thankful that you are in my life with so many good affirmations that help me all the time continue moving forward in my growth. And again, I just thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom, Mr. D. Thank you so much.
I love it, Jennifer. I'm going to leave you with a little quote.
Okay, great.
It's very powerful. If one person needs to change for you to be happy, then you've given away too much power. That's really evolved.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, if he would only change, or if she would only, then I could be happy. No.
Yeah.
So, Jennifer, create on.
Oh, so inspiring. Thanks for listening to Not As Crazy As You Think, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, mental health is attainable for anyone, especially those labeled with mental illness. Until next time, peace out.